Grizz again. So last week we talked about what makes a really good bear rifle, and we gave you guys like the surface kind of a course and a good bear gun, just so you get the overall concept of the thing. And I kind of touched on calibers and bullets a little bit. So this time I want to get away from the rifles, because you guys have a good idea what makes a good bear hunting rifle. And if you don't, you can watch that last ultimate brown bear hunting gun video. But this is going to be like the ultimate brown bear hunting bullet or ammunition caliber. So what it takes for brown bears is reasonably good velocity and reasonably good bullet weight. You don't want to go crazy high in velocity, but that's not usually the problem when we're talking about ineffective brown bear calibers. Usually what makes them more ineffective is people get so big and so heavy that the velocity falls off to the point that all of your shock value goes away. So the bullet hits the animal at such a low velocity that we don't get any hydrostatic shock. So without hydrostatic shock, you don't get a lot of tissue destruction. So you want to keep your velocity up pretty high, and by pretty high I would say like an impact velocity well above 2,000 feet per second. So what that means is that if you're firing, say, like we talked last week, if you're firing like a .416 Remington with 400 grain bullets, your impact velocity of about 2,000 feet per second is going to be met at about a 100-yard threshold, because that thing's leaving the muzzle at 2,400 feet per second. So your hydrostatic shock factor is going to go out the window at short range, because the thing starts out slow and those bullets are really not aerodynamical. They're as aerodynamical as a concrete block. So you want one that starts out kind of fast, I would say close to 3,000 feet per second. That'd be a good place to be. And one that's relatively streamlined, aerodynamic shape, so that it can retain its velocity as far as you can get away with it. So in a 300 Magnum, you don't want to go crazy on bullet weight. You don't want to get way above 200 grains or anything like that. 180 grain bullet at about 3,000 feet per second is going to have your impact velocity up high, past 300 yards. So you're good there. Now when we get up in the bigger calibers like the H&H's, 375 H&H's, and that's pretty much the spectrum of brown bear calibers, 300 to 375. So when you get up to 375 H&H's, you're starting at a lower velocity. So with the H&H, you actually want to go down in bullet weight, not at the upper end. You don't go with the 300 grain flat nose big bullet. Go with a little bit lighter bullet. So you want to go with like a 250 to 270 grain at about 2,700 feet per second or so. Nice streamlined bullet. That'll keep your velocity up and your hydrostatic shock up for as far a range as you can get away with. Now when your velocity is up, you need to have a pretty stoutly constructed bullet, but shedding weight's a good thing. You don't want a bullet that's just absolutely indestructible. So what we're going to do is I brought two H&H loads to kind of illustrate the super heavy, blunt, low velocity thing that most people bring. And then I brought another one that is a higher velocity, more streamlined effect thing, and I'll kind of explain those. So let me get them out and show you guys, and we'll go over those while we're looking at them. So we have here two 375 H&H's. Well, the one on your right, the all brass case, that happens to be an H&H improved. The one on your left, the nickel brass, that happens to be just a normal 375 H&H. Now the round on the right happens to be a round that a client left. He left 3/4 of a box of shells when he went home, and just kind of donated them to the cause, and that is what he brought. The one on the left is one of my hand loads that I've used, but that's my preferred load for the H&H. It's kind of a famous load. It's well known. But so the right hand load is a 300 grain Swift A-frame. That's a really good stoutly constructed bullet. In an H&H, it's not crazy stoutly constructed like it can be if it was in a .416 Remington, but it's pretty stoutly constructed. And let's just go through. I'm just going to tell you right from the get-go. The one on the left, the nickel plated case with the pointy white tip bullet, that's the one you want. Let's go with the reason why you don't want the one, then we'll go jump back over to the one on the left. So the one on the right is a 300 grain bullet. Like I said, that happens to be a Swift A-frame. Now I'm not. They're really good bullets, and they for the intended purpose, they're great. The trouble with them in this particular caliber and for this particular application is that a 300 grain bullet in a 375 H&H has a muzzle velocity of about 2,400 feet per second. So it's not leaving the muzzle very fast. This is basically a stoutly constructed lead core type of bullet that you can get in an H&H, and because it's heavy and moving relatively slow, it doesn't have that violent of a expansion rate. It's very well metered expansion and kind of slow expansion. Because the muzzle velocity is low, and because this particular bullet does not have a very high ballistic coefficient, you can see it's kind of a flat nosed bullet, and I know for a fact it's a flat base bullet. It doesn't retain its velocity very well. So what shock effect it does have at the muzzle, it starts to lose relatively quickly upon leaving the muzzle, to the point where after 150 yards or so, it really has trouble expanding. Like that particular bullet won't expand very well out to 200 yards. It's basically done. It's not going to expand at all, probably. Maybe just deform the tip a little bit, and with the low velocity and the slow expansion, it's not going to disrupt a lot of tissue in the animal when it hits it. I'm not saying it won't kill the bear, I'm just saying it's not going to be spectacular. Okay, so the bullet on the left, that happens to be a 260 grain Nosler AccuBond. And I know from experience that that bullet holds together quite well. It does shed some weight from the front of the bullet on impact, which is a good thing. 100% weight retention is not good. You want a little bit of extraneous parts and pieces, you know, not the whole bullet, but some of it. It definitely speeds up the process of killing the bear. So anyhow, that particular bullet's leaving the muzzle at about 2,700 feet per second, which is substantially faster than the bullet on the right, and it has a much higher ballistic coefficient. So with that polymer tip and the boat tail design, it not only starts at a high velocity because it's a little bit lighter weight, but it will retain the velocity much further. So this particular load, whereas the one on the right, you know, it's basically a 150 yard cartridge. The one on the left is, you're easily going to gain another 100 yards point blank range with that particular bullet, and you're easily going to gain another 100 yards in hydrostatic shock ability on an animal. So when you hit the animal with the one on the left, you're going to get more profound, pronounced effect on the animal at all ranges, from the muzzle to the 150 yards that I consider the heavier bullet to be good at. And it's going to keep doing that for about another 100 yards, out to about 250. So basically you just gave yourself more opportunity. You opened up 100 yards more opportunity on brown bears. So whereas you're basically done at 150 yards with the bullet on the right, you can shoot bears out to 250 with the one on the left. And this is not a super high velocity, really flat shooting, you know, caliber. This is pretty much the opposite of that. But when we optimize the caliber and the load and the bullet, we can make it pretty usable. And that bullet going that fast, I know from experience, has a really good effect on bears. I know that I've shot a lot of bears with that exact bullet and that exact load. And generally speaking, if it's a close range bear and you shoot the thing good, it's lights out in seconds. It usually drops them, you know, right there, and they're done. So there's a lot of different calibers out there, a lot of different bullets, but this is like just a kind of a bird's eye view of the pros and cons of the two sorts. You know, we're trying to compare apples to apples, the same caliber and everything, but we're showing you the different flavors. So the one on the left is the one you want, higher velocity, better BC, but it still holds together good enough to get the penetration you need. So that's what you want. Check it out, and we'll get more in there later, but that should cover it for now. Okay guys, so that was just like an entry-level discussion about what makes a good brown bear bullet and what doesn't. And don't get me wrong, both of those bullets are good and both of them will suffice. Just one's going to give you more opportunity than the other. You're not going to have to, you're going to be able to take the shot when you couldn't. And one's going to give you a little bit quicker kill, I'm not going to lie. So you're only going to get good information from me, what really works, what we've tried in the field. Your mileage may vary, but this is stuff that I've tested, you know, ad nauseum. So anyways, think about it. When you give me a shout, we'll go over it again. We can talk about your particular setup. Otherwise, next time I want to talk about scopes. So I'm going to bring a few scopes out. We're going to show you what's going to be the perfect scope for your brown bear gun. So if you're building one from scratch, or if you just have a few rifles or a few different scopes, you'll know what to bring on the trip. Otherwise, give us a shout. We still have a couple hunts left. We've got some one brown bear hunt for 2021. We've got some black bear hunts and some mountain goat hunts. So give us Jenna a call. The email's at the bottom, and take care. Thanks.